Hiya, Chris with another video for you. Today we're going to look at making seasonal decorations out of natural resources, and we're going to use this willow tree that's behind us. Now, willow is an amazing resource. It's extremely resilient, grows next to water, so all along the canal. It likes to have wet roots, so wherever you find water you'll likely find a willow. And actually it takes to being pruned to clip back quite nicely. It does very little harm to the tree as long as it's done in the right manner, which we'll show you now. Ivy's another awesome natural resource, really good for what we're crafting today. Along the ground you'll get really long runs with a bit of foliage, and it's a bit of a weed. It grows most places. People aren't going to mind if you trim a little bit back, so we're going to look for as long as possible with as many leaves on, because that's going to look the best. So once we've gathered our resources, I've got about half a dozen little sections of willow, all about pencil thick, and a few strands of ivy. Then we can start to create our wreath. So the wreath is a woven ring. Quite often you'll see them decorated on people's doors. They look quite nice sat in the middle of a table with a candle in the middle. Effectively what it is just a load of these thin strands twisted round each other and woven together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a thin end and get the kind of size. So I want a fairly big one. So I want to go about that size. And what I'm going to do now is use the thick end almost as a bit of a needle and weave it in and out of itself, twisting it round and round to form a very rough circle. Now the first one won't be completely round, because we've got the thick end and the thin end and they're going to be pushing against each other. But once we start working in more of the strands, and the way I join them is where the thick end finishes, I'm going to create a little gap and feed the next thin end through and just carry on weaving in that same direction. So I'm going in from the front, so nearest the camera, and towards me. I'm just going to make sure I keep on going in that direction, working my way around and round, and I'll just carry on and build up with more and more of the willow. So I'm now ready to add my next bit. Thin end in a gap near where I finished, so I've got a little gap there. Hold on to that so it doesn't come out, and in from the same side, carrying on round and round. Now I'm not forcing it because I don't want to bend or maybe snap the branch. I'm just going to try and gently curl it round and then feed it through. Now you can see it's starting to take a more uniform shape now the more I add in. So what I'll do, I'll add a couple more and then you can join me back for the next bit. So now I've finished off the wreath. That's quite round. Notice there's a couple of ends I might want to just trim off, neaten them up a little bit. I'll get rid of that skinny bit there. Okay, so it's a little bit more uniform. So now I'm going to add the decoration on the outside, which remember was the ivy that we collected. And very simple, but same idea. I'm going to take one end, so I'm going to start with a thick end this time, thread it in, and very gently, so as not to damage too many of the leaves, I'm going to wind it round the wreath. Now the ivy is more brittle than the willow, so do take care because it will snap. When I get to the end, I'm going to try and again find a little gap so I can lock it in place, so it will stay put. Now you can see already that's starting to just add a little bit of decoration around the wreath. I'm just going to add a few more bits. Other things you can add, autumn leaves are quite popular. You can get hold of pine cones or acorns, get all the browns going on there, that's quite nice. You can always add a little bit of tinsel just to sparkle it up a bit. I like to add holly. If you can get hold of holly that has some of the little red berries on it, I think it sets it off quite nicely. So a couple more bits, and then we're about done. So I'm going to look for little gaps, areas where I think it needs a bit more greenery. So this section here, I'm going to try and match that up with what I've got. Thread that in there. Now the initial ring, that willow ring, gives us a really good framework to stick things into. You see, that's really, it holds the ivy really nicely. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Nice simple outdoor sort of seasonal craft. Give it a go. Let us know how you get on. Cheers.